You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
Welcome back in. Time in our Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios, 4:16 on a Tuesday. This is the Zach Gelb Show, taking you up until 6 p.m. Right around the corner, we're getting ready for Princeton Tigers basketball, November 14th at BYU. Can't wait. A nice senior squad with a lot of high expectations. Number one in the Ivy League, and that's the head coach now joining us of the Princeton men's basketball team, and that's Mitch Henderson, who's kind enough to join us right now. Coach, appreciate a few minutes, and how are you?
I'm doing great, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. So I heard you at your media day conference yesterday, and you know in college basketball you win one of two ways, either with one and dones or with senior players. You have a senior group. Tell me a little bit about these seniors.
Yeah, I mean, I have 6 seniors that have played minutes and 5 that have started at some point. It reminds me a lot of the team that I played on when I was here. There's just a lot of experience coming back. And we're going to, I've mentioned it's kind of boring, but we're going to rely very heavily on them. Hans Brays last year, hurt his knee, so he's back. Steve Cook, Spencer Weiss, Henry Caruso, Keon Rayner, Pete Miller. And then, we have Amir Bell, who's played a significant amount of minutes for us, which is a local kid here from East Brunswick. So it's a really fun group to coach. They like playing, they like competing, and, I think one and dones versus seniors, there's always a combination of having young guys on your team. So we've got some of those guys too. I don't know if they're one and dones, but they're definitely a very talented group.
Though, now in this age with these type of athletes, and I'm someone that's younger as well, everyone sees these rankings. Everyone has access to people contacting them through Twitter, and there are high expectations with your basketball team, like we were saying. How much does it help having these battle-tested players to deal with these high expectations?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I just was saying to the guys today, there's expectations put on teams, and they don't know, and I think, you have to take kind of a hit early on in the season and learn from that. But with this group, we've been there. I would expect that they know how to handle, a really loud gym, a big time run, how to calm down. What are we going to do when we need a good shot after a couple possessions when we haven't had one? The staying solid, like making, I don't know, it's like making less mistakes than your opponent, and that comes from experience. I don't know that, freshmen want to play, and of course in recruiting you're always trying to get guys to play as early as you can. But Austin, it's just the fact that, it's when you have a really experienced team, it's very difficult to beat them.
I was at the American Athletic Conference Media Day this year, and at these media days, they give you the rankings for the teams, and I was talking to Fran Dunphy, and I said, what do you think about being picked number 6? And Fran had no clue what I was talking about because he never pays attention to those rankings. As a coach, I know it's human nature to pay attention to the rankings. Do you get caught up in them?
No, not at all. I mean, I would say when we're not picked up at the top, I don't pay attention. When we're picked up at the top, I would say it's really nice. And it definitely helps in terms of, national perception, and does help in recruiting. But at the end of the day, you've got, it's a 40-minute game, and each game has a little bit of a different flavor. The league is very good. And we have a really tough schedule. So I don't pay attention to it too much, although I think the guys, it's fun for us, and we're enjoying it, but I do think with Princeton, it's sort of where we should be.
Mitch Henderson with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. You add a big name to your staff in the offseason, and that was Kerry Kitstles. I love Kerry Kitstles. How'd you get him to join your staff?
Yeah, I loved him too. I didn't know him previous to sort of starting to look for assistants, but he's a terrific player at Villanova, and I always enjoyed watching him there, and then, of course, followed him with the Nets. And we met through kind of an alum, a Princeton alum. He reached out, and what was great for me is Kerry really understands and understood the message behind what we're all about here at Princeton, which is, there's more to it than just the basketball, although the basketball here is really important. It's the student-athlete piece. He went back to Villanova, got his MBA, is really interested in giving back and kind of sharing what he's learned both as a former player in college that was very good, somebody that played in the NBA for 9 years, and also that went back to school and got his MBA.
He has so much experience. What specifically, as a coach like yourself, can you learn from a person like Kerry Kitstles?
Well, what I remembered was he was a terrific scorer, and I think he still might be the tops at Villanova, but he cares deeply about defense. And, he's helped me a lot on the defensive end of the ball. I mean, he really sees things, and, he's talking about, he's got pictures of him guarding LeBron, Kobe, Michael. I mean, he kind of played in the NBA in a really, a powerful era of good players at that two-guard spot, right? So he just has a wealth of knowledge and experience, and he's able and willing to share it with the guys and with me.
What did your players say when you had someone with that pedigree?
Well, honestly, I don't know if they knew who he was.
Really? That's crazy how that works.
At first, I think a couple of the Jersey guys were like, "Oh, that's great," but even some of the recruits, a lot of the recruits that we're looking at now were born in '99. Kerry graduated from Villanova in '96, but their parents know who he is. Most people know eventually, and those people see. I feel like, especially the guys, they care about that stuff, but they really care about it a lot more when they find out that you're invested in them. And Kerry's very invested in the guys, and off the court as well as on, and they love that.
Coach, I'm only 22. That makes me feel old, though, if people don't know Kerry Kitstles, being honest with you.
Well, I know. Hey, look, I feel like, if they don't know who he is, then it doesn't take that long. He doesn't talk about himself. That's, and it's kind of hard to do that. People know, that when you tell somebody you played in 2 NBA finals and, you were Big East Player of the Year. I mean, the year he was a senior in college, the first-team All-American was Ray Allen, Lorenzen Wright, Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson, and Kerry Kitstles.
That's unbelievable. So you add Kerry Kitstles to your staff. The conference, though, they had a conference tournament. How about that? That's a big thing to do.
It's going to really help us, Zach. I mean, we've been scratching at it for a long time, and we finally have a tournament. The league nationally is ranked, 10 to 12, kind of. We're ranked up there, right? So I think that what's key to know is that, you're playing that last weekend in March. People are starting to tune in. The tournament selection was the actual Sunday of the tournament. So, I think it's going to be a big hit, and it'll really boost what we all think is and thing about the league, which is the emphasis on what we are here, which is, student athletes.
And I've been to a lot of stadiums, and I know it doesn't seat 1 million people, but there's nothing like playing in the Palestra, too.
Well, it's a great place for us to start the tournament. I feel very good about the fact that we're having the tournament, and the Palestra is a special place. And of course, I feel like as somebody that played against Penn too, I mean, there's a lot going on there that's integral to to the league.
When you were playing there as a player, did you walk in knowing the tradition the Palestra has?
No, I didn't know about the tradition. I know a lot more about it now. I'm from Indiana, so I didn't quite get it. But now, having seen a ton of gyms across the country, there's maybe the barn in Minnesota, the Palestra. There's a few gyms, Hinkle Fieldhouse that can kind of stretch back, and there's been a lot of events there over the years. But it's a good place. It's still like when I walk in there, it's still really loud. It holds a lot for a lot of people.
Coach Henderson with us right now. So you mentioned Hans coming back. What are your expectations for him?
Well, I mean, he was like steady as can be, for the first 3 years. He gets rebounds, almost 8 rebounds a game. I mean, he's having multiple double-digit rebound games, multiple double-doubles. So, I mean, anytime rebounding is just such a hard thing to do. If you're really good at it, it makes a big difference, and he can shoot it. So that's what I'm expecting. And, we had a really good team and a good season a year ago, and we missed him a lot, and we just asked him to kind of do his part to make sure that he's making everybody better.
As a coach, when you have a player coming off injury, how careful do you have to be out of the gate managing his minutes?
I don't know. I think that's up to Hans. I would watch. We're going to be watching his minutes very closely, but if he's playing well and doesn't look fatigued, he's going to keep playing.
So you have a lot of depth on this team, like we were talking about. It seems like this is an unselfish group, correct?
Yes, yeah, I think so. And they like to, as long as they're passing the ball to each other. I would call that unselfish, not the other team.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good thing. With Amir Bell, what's your next step for Amir Bell in this process of his growth in his career?
Well, I mean, it's he's a junior and he's played a lot. He started as a freshman and he's had a lot of basketball experience. And I think you go from being a sophomore to a junior. It should be a transition to being kind of the old veteran. So that's what we need from him is a calming influence on the court. He's got a lot of ability, but it's time for everybody in the gym to know that who the leader is of our team, and I think I'm pointing to Amir.
So we talk about Amir, we talk about Hans coming back from the injury. Give me some more strengths about this team, and what do you think your biggest weakness is as you get ready to start this season?
Well, I mean, the strengths are many, and I just mentioned that Amir is a leader, but we have a lot of leadership. We have the ability to score. We can really shoot. It's like when you go to interview, people are like, "Well, what are your weaknesses?" I think that's the weakness is that we get complacent. What I've challenged the group is to just go, play, don't be afraid of the moment, don't be afraid of challenges, anything that comes in front of you, take it on. And they've answered all those things, but I think we're going to find as the season goes along that we're going to be presented with a lot of different challenges, and I just hope the group's up to making the adjustments that they need to make.
Another potential weakness, and this is something that's tough to control, but I guess you do control it in some aspect, and I do admire programs that do schedule tough non-conference games. This is a tough non-conference schedule, though, Coach.
Brutal schedule. I've got a screw loose for doing it, but if I was going to do something like this, it'd be with this team. I wanted to play a schedule that challenged them, and of course, we're putting a lot of miles on us, trying to get from place to place. We're heading to Utah in a couple, I think almost 2 weeks here, but it's college basketball, and we want to play as hard of a schedule as possible, and we're doing that.
Wrapping up with Coach Henderson, who joins us right now, your program is always going to be synonymous with Pete Carrill. You know him very well playing under him. Just tell me a little bit about Coach and what you learned from him when you were a player.
Well, as a player, he was not an easy person to play for. A lot of guys that have played for him would say something similar. He was very, direct, honest, and demanded a lot out of you. But later, you could have sort of come to realize that, it was the little things that mattered the most. It was doing things the right way, not taking any shortcuts. And, his advice to me as a coach is to be yourself, and I've appreciated that very much. He's still around quite often, and we've gotten to be close, and I really appreciate the fact that I'm getting to spend this kind of time with him, now, and not just as a player, kind of as a coach. He helps me a lot. He sees so much, and I'm appreciative of his time.
There's always so much pride that one has in their university. Even when they leave it, that pride seems to grow even more and more and more throughout the years. When you were a player, though, or even shortly after you left Princeton, could you ever imagine being the coach of Princeton one day?
No. I never set out. It never was a thought, but I can tell you this, coming back to a place that meant a lot to me as a student and a player, it means a great deal to me to give the guys an experience that's very similar to the one that I had. And I think that's what dawns on you is it's everybody that plays college basketball, you want to be able to win and go to the tournament and play at the highest level possible, but you also want to do that with your best friends and graduate and say that was the best 4 years of my life. It just happens to make the experience a lot better when you do win. And so that's never lost on me, especially here, because that's the expectation And I love that about this place. I love it so much. I just love the fact that that's where we are, and that's exactly what we talk about, what we want to be all the time.
The last one for your coach on the way out with Coach Mitch Henderson, the head coach of the Princeton Tigers men's basketball team. They get ready to start their season on November 14th. So when you were under Coach Kirill from, and also another coach as well from 94 to 98, how much have you changed from that mid to late 90s until the Mitch Henderson that you are now in the year of 2016?
I think then, I was 22. I was trying to figure out what was the best way to get an open shot, for my teammates, or you're just trying to do your best, right? You're a player. But the main thing I would say now is it's the many challenges that go into running a practice. The main difference is I think I just think a lot less about what I need and more about what a lot of other people need, because I don't know. I just think that's the challenge of being a coach. I make a lot of mistakes, I'm far from perfect, but I really enjoy the process of trying to dive in to figure out what's best for the group.
Actually, one more that just popped into my head. Did you ever think what it would be like to coach yourself? Like, let's say if you had a player identical to Mitch Henderson in college right now.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think I was a bit of a pain in the butt, and I don't remember, ever having that moment as a player. Like, I wonder what I'd be like to be coached. But, I think, when I first got into coaching, I think you feel like you kind of know everything. You might have all the answers, and I like to think that, I was confident, but I really didn't know. I didn't know as much as I know, and I'm still learning. But what I do know is that really good players, people that are really good and that love to play, those are the guys I want to coach. And I love to play. I love to compete. So you can put up with a lot when people love to play.
Well, Coach, we wish you the best of luck this year. We can't wait to see a few games at Jadwin Gymnasium, and then hopefully be cheering you on at the Palestra at the end of the season. Appreciate the time, my friend.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, take care.